Okay. I often refer to something that I call the cavalcade of MCs. One of the members of the cavalcade of MCs is Rainy Night. So Rainy Night, you're being summoned. It's like the airport. Usually the cookies are not that, don't get... Rainy, you ready to read a poem for the people? Professional Poetry 101, be prepared. And clean off your folder before you get up here.
I didn't even know we started again, excuse me.
Well, I started a few minutes ago, but everyone's ignoring me.
Hello. Okay, this is one of those things where there were prompts that was before a class and some teacher had left a list of words that she wanted her students to write a poem out of, and I thought, that'll never work. So of course, being the good sport I am, I had to try to make a poem out of the words, and so this is what I got. It's called Dream Dancer. If I were a blue peach, I'm sure I'd stick out. So I'd probably be a dancer gliding among the shadows, sprinting into the spotlight, taking gigantic swooping bows. Drifting from show to show, a gypsy vaudevillian, glossed and perfumed, curvy and wonderful, always demanding the velvet chair and sucking in all the glory I can until I'm wrinkled and rotten. No matter what my form, I'm going to shine in the sun. How about you? Have you considered what you're going to do with what you've been given? And this is a chapbook I'm working on from a little trip I took to Europe. I backpacked the summer of 2012. It was one of those, what do you call it, bucket list things? In a hostel in Stuttgart, remembering Dharma bums. Kicked back on my bunk, feeling crappy, I have a flashback to another trip. In Mexico with my mother over 20 years ago. 3 generations, grandmother, mother, daughter, took a little journey to Mazatlan, where I caught a bad case of Montezuma's revenge from something I ate, banana flambe. While my daughter Misty kept our parasailing appointment, I had to cling to the latrine. My poor mother Marguerite, in her 70s at the time, saw it as duty to watch over me. The only book I had to offer her was Jack Kerouac's Dharma Bums. Not the sort of literature my Catholic mother would approve of, or so I thought. While I languished on the porcelain god, my sweet mom blushed as she read about beatniks making yab yum, and yet she read the entire book. Marguerite was a good sport after all, and the 3 of us came home latter-day Dharma bums. Barnes & Noble, last Tuesday of the month.
Short and sweet. Okay, and next we're going to have Ghost Town Poetry Regular, who is also going to be the feature next week at Paper Tiger. And we're really happy that those Paper Tiger readings start up again. So thanks to Joyce Colson for getting that going. So the feature there next Wednesday will be our next reader here tonight, Grace Valentine.
This is about a poem that I wrote for my father, who came to visit me recently for about 2 weeks, and I got a chance to share this with him before he left, which was a really cool moment in our time together. So, my father was a storyteller at the end of every day. He gathered up the history and spun it in a whole new way, breathed life into adventure, and sowed tears into the sorrow, sprinkled magic in the mystery and a longing for tomorrow. My father was a storyteller at the end of every day, conjuring up all kinds of dragons, fierce and kind at the same time. protectors for our night-filled dreams, and wishes blown across the sands of time. For he loved so dearly history, those who came before. He swelled with pride at each accomplished storyline, and he told of native medicine healers, and that white man does not always come in peace. He steals and maims and claims for his what is not his to keep. This land is not ours to be owned, only borrowed and revered. With tender tilling, and cherishing what it is that we are given, making the best of any circumstance that life throws your way, for even if you stumble, have the grace to stand up and then again be on your way. For none of us are perfect, and all we can do is try and give a heartfelt effort and weave in a sense of pride. And stake your name upon whatever you produce. And even though there's hurt aplenty, life is still often sweet. And children are for loving, tickling, and above all, listening to. For out of the mouth of babes is the eternal truth. Our children are our future, and make way for them to lead. Future stellar storytellers of this earth, of you we desperately need. So share the wisdom of our ancestors in any time of need, and weave your magic often. And tell those fabled tales. He made me laugh so hard I cried, and giggled till I ached. My father was a storyteller at the end of every day, till the end of his last days. My father is a storyteller grander than any who came before, and I only wish to be his child and hear those just once more. Thank you. Interrelational vibration of the species. Chemical signatures rush towards, collide, periods of struggle, yet souls who love vibrate in syncopated rhythm, in unison. Though not all unite, she struggles, she clings, she pushes, she shoves. Sweat, tears, and strain to no avail. She cannot move him, zero impact. A stone impenetrable wall, though ever moving with force. Begging the questions that movements ask when utter desperation fails. To generate the desired response, a primal evolution of the species intermingling patterns emerge. The body as shadow art becomes life-sustaining roots, reaches down and beats in rhythm with the pulse of creation, the pulse of existence, where heartbeat and breath drum on. Thank you. One final note. Know this. If you ever hunger for exquisite tenderness, know that I am here. If you desire for every inch and every ounce of your being to be held, wrapped in caring arms, I'm the one to call. And if your intellect needs admiring and your jokes require deep echoes of belly laughter, find me. And if your heart suffers pain and loss, know that you are never lost to me. For I see you, and for the briefest of moments, you once saw me. Thank you.
Right on.
Thanks. We're still, we're still a town that has poetry readings, but not quite as many as Portland. So one of the things to do is go out and support the ones that are here. So go next Wednesday to see more of Grace, and you can read some of your own work there at Paper Tiger. It's a fun place. And there've been a lot of great readings there. Next we're going to hear from Russ. I don't see him, but I know he's out there. Here he comes. Here's Russ, everybody.
I just like to hide on the comfy chairs in the back. We're still here though. See? Here we are back. Chris made a comment earlier about inspiring your friends to write. And just want to take a moment to mention that although I'm very new at it and don't know what I'm doing, I kind of learn through osmosis from others of you and how you talk about prompts that you've given people and all the various different things going on in the community. Where I attend church is called the Abundant Life Center, and we recently lost a guiding minister who was only with us about 6 months, a very shy person who found a lot of growth in herself and how to give sermons and talk in front of people. And at her memorial, just the other day, many of us learned a lot more of depth about who she is and her passion for writing. And one of the things that she did in her way of leading from behind was to find people and see their talents and encourage them to do certain things. And one thing she did with me was tasked me with reawakening a writers group that the group had. And Joyce had been a leader of that group in the past. And so I found this quote in the program, and I was reminded of what Chris said. And for her, this is what she said. As a minister, my guiding principle was that the greatest service we can offer others is in helping facilitate their attunement to the divinity within. And so I really don't know what I'm doing with the writers group, but that's basically the essence of what I want to do with it. It's not my group. I'm just trying to coordinate people to get started. And incidentally, we're a very small, intimate group. We have room for more. You don't have to attend our church. So if anybody wants to join a writers group on the third Tuesday, come talk to me. So what I have to share tonight is something that was inspired by a little faux pas incident that occurred at Paper Tiger last month. And it was just amazing how quickly the inspiration to write in fantasy came out of just a little casual oops. And I was compelled to write this down as soon as I returned home. It's called Damsel. I am not one who startles easily, yet I was gender bent and temporally tesseracted into celluloid without audible voice. My screaming and shrieking rely upon white text captioned on matte black, illuminated in Art Nouveau style. I scream while bound and hobbled, fastened to argentate rails on creosote ties. I pray for the one in white to arrive in time, to vanquish that sinister one in black, and liberate me from the impending steam-spewing juggernaut. Grace has failed to silence her smartphone. What it was is she had this really cool ringtone. I've never heard one like it. I was enraptured, or just paying attention anyways to whoever was reading, and this sound of a steam locomotive like 2 feet from me is what that was about. So thank you.
So there's Ghost Town for you. Even the poems about, people fucking up are nicer than on the other side of the river. Yeah, I turned off my phone during, during Maggie's piece. It's one of those things where it's just like there's so much a part of our lives that any one of us could be that person on the hot seat, right? So try to remember to turn them off before we start, and everyone will be happy. Next, we're going to hear from David Nelson. Ready, David? All right, please welcome David Nelson to the microphone.
All right, I'm going to start with a few scriptures from the Old Testament. This is Genesis 21, verses 8 through 19. And Abraham made a great feast on the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, namely with Isaac." And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad or because of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed." So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, and putting it on her shoulder, he gave it and the boy to Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the skin was used up, and she placed the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat down across from him at a distance of about a bow shot, for she said to herself, "Let me not see the death of the boy." So she sat opposite him and lifted her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, "What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him with your hand, for I will make him a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad a drink. Jeremiah 9, verse 1. "Oh, that my head were waters, and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people." Job 16:20. "My friends scorn me. My eyes pour out tears to God." The well of my eye, the well of my eye, the double, the wells of my eye, the trebling and the trebling well of my eye. The four angels, the star, four angels, well of my eye, the pentacle, the 10 and 10, the pentacle, the well of my eye, the seal which releases a generation, lo, the release, the star, well of my eye, Sabbath day, the 3rd and 5th, and the 5th and 3rd Sabbath day, well of my eye, the majesty so curtained, majestic Sabbath day, wine, victorious majesties, curtained majesty, the well of my eye, the foundation, my mind in knowing, but falling, and knowing in mind, the foundation, the well of my eye, the kingdom of Adam and lifespan in Canaan, Reuma in the valley, the lifespan of humankind in the kingdom, well of my eye, the 10 before Adam, the mortal, before the valley, Reuma and Canaan, the mortality of humans before the 10, well of my eye, the triumph, the tabernacles of knowing, who fell and knew the tabernacles, the foundation, the well of my eye, the beginning is curtained, majesty's rest, the wine, majesty's victories, curtained, beginning, the well of my eye, the fish, the 3 and 5, and the 5 and 3 resting ones, wells of my eye. Solomon's seal releases what was, oh, what releases the seal, the well of my eye, the pentacle, the majesty, again the majesty, the pentacle, well of my eye, the living creatures, the firmament, 4 wings, well of my eye, the trebling and the trebling well of my eye, the double, the wells of my eye, the well of my eye.
I think I levitated a little bit during that. Thank you for that. Again, another member of the cavalcade of MCs, Mr. Steve Williams, who will surely have something to announce to us.
I am not the same height as Chris. That's the first announcement.
One of the tall poets.
The tall poet. So this coming Tuesday, we have a reading at In Other Words in North Portland. We have Kirsten Ryan, who's the poetry editor for the Oregonian, and also a musician and a teacher and so forth. And coming in from Colorado, just for us, because she knew her, is Nancy Stolman, and she's a flash fiction specialist, nanofiction, like one page or less. And she calls it flash fiction. We read it, it's a prose poem. And so she's doing a workshop on, is it flash fiction, is it prose poem? The next night. So I have flyers on that, and Mel has some more over there, about flash fiction for poets, which is a prose poem. Anyway, it'll be fun. We'll be there. So I think that's the whole thing. On the Pacific Northwest Poets is all the info on the reading. So I had this little poem. We all have other lives, we have to go somewhere and make a buck. So my other life is inventory, which means I'm part of a crew that goes from store to store in the middle of the night. We count everything in the store, we scan a lot of barcodes. So this is a work poem. It's called Misdemeanor. We trespass at 6 a.m. in front of another store. Wait for someone with a key and alarm code. Today a dollar store, tomorrow clothing. The smokers shrug into the circle. Katie will be 10 minutes late because Katie is always 10 minutes late. Unpack laptop and printer at the last check stand. The one each store keeps meaning to fix. Find a plug-in, we always need power. Shoko's eyes announce she came straight here from Target, where she finished working a couple hours ago, slept in her car. We clack on calculator keys like castanets, numbers flying from eye to hand, pour data into motherboards like chains into a bucket. Step ladder to the top shelf, kneel for the bottom, count lids and caps, 4 times 24, 3 missing, scan another barcode, capture the money, the manager's bonus, move down the aisle. Katie's fingers her keys like a pianist, her grasshopper knees splayed as she counts the bottom shelf. Mike is peering behind soup cans, a keychain flashlight perched in his mouth. We don't hear the crying kids, instinctively keep our hands away from shopping cart wheels, and no, I'm sorry, we really don't work here. I can't help you. I have no idea where they keep the rolling pins. I know, it looks like we work here. Welcome to our race to add everything up, to be done and gone to the next job, to invade the next break room, steal their muddy coffee. We finish counting the last corkscrew, fill the file, transmit the answers to someone else's future, pick up our machine, stumble on that one. Pick up our machine bags, stack our ladders, and leave no sign we were ever there. I simply I need them to count my bottom shelf.
So Steve's co-hosted that very fun reading at In Other Words is someone who we adore, and they come as a set. M, and M is now an award-winning author of a chapbook, and so we're excited about it. I grabbed this from over there. It's for sale here in the bookstore, and she'll be featuring for us in 2014. So please welcome M. We're glad to see you again.
Thank you. What Steve forgot or left out of this talk about Nancy is that she was a finalist for the Colorado Book Award for her flash fiction, and she's also a co-founder of Fast Forward Press. So come and see her.
And she sings at night.
Take a workshop. She sings at night.
As part of the group Kinky Mink. and she's a curator of the F-Bomb Flash Fiction Reading Series. Anyway.
She's doing
She's
in
quite a
Denver
character.
what you guys are doing here. And thank you to Mel and to everybody who's bought the book so far. I was just talking to the publisher the other day, and she said mine is the best-selling book that Concrete Wolf Press has done. So thank you. With that, and I wanted to read one from the book that I don't have memorized, and I don't read too often. In fact, I don't know that I've ever read this out loud to other people. Maybe I have. I don't know. My book is about widowhood, and so all of the poems are on that subject. And this is the narrator talking to her dead husband. And it's called What Widows Know. If you had not died right in the middle of our marriage, the man who now calls himself husband and I would still have bumped elbows in the Starbucks on 12th Avenue. Forced to share the only empty table, skating confidences in figure eights between us, like stir sticks in coffee cups. I would have sipped the musk of his collarbone through a paper straw, ridden the rise of his hip in the half-light of rainy Thursday afternoons. He would have known the cruelty of the heft of my breast in his hand. I, the running home, begging your fingers to untangle strands of copper lightning from my hair, smelling of ozone after a thunderstorm. Like children drunk on our own weightlessness, we three would have climbed too high up, too far out, on the limb of a different inevitability. You say, choose. I uncurl my fingers from the branch. Thanks. And now
This book has a great title too, To That Mythic Country Called Closure. Isn't that the name of the book? Yeah, what a great title. And next we're going to hear from someone who's, rapidly becoming part of this family. We're so happy that she's here in Vancouver. One of the people who's really special to Ghost Town was Jack McCarthy, simply one of the greatest spoken word artists I've ever seen. And we lost him not too long ago, and his wife Carol is carrying on the work of making sure that Jack's poetry stays in the public conversation and that people are able to access it and that his memory stays alive. And that's important work, and it just really, it touches me. I mean, I hope that I have someone that cares enough that they might do something like that for me when I'm not here anymore. And so always pleased to have her here with us, Carol McCarthy.
I'm still trying to get used to doing the readings and not being in the audience. But anyway, it is worth it. Jack McCarthy, if you're interested and you have never come across him, you can always look on YouTube and you can actually hear him doing his poetry, because he was very much into performing his poetry and the spoken word. So I'm going through his things, and this really fits our theme tonight. And I found this, this writing that he had written when he was married to his first wife, and he was in Boston, a very, very responsible Irish Catholic who was taking care of his kids, hated his job, and was really talking about poetry. I didn't realize how much it meant to him even then. And I just think it's a story that really fits so many people when they think, is it really important to write poetry? And then to have people around you kind of thinking, it's really a distraction, you know. So I felt very sad hearing this, but at the same time realized that he had to be a poet. And that even though he wasn't able to do it a lot at that time in his life, it was inside of him and it needed to come out. And then he just had an incredible time for 23 years really making that happen. So this is his story, and from by his own words. This is the first line I've written in 9 months, excuse me, or since your last anniversary poem. Nor did I ever get the last 2 lines of that the way I wanted them, a lousy couplet. Hence the 3 months lead time. Why the long vacation? And am I frustrated? Not frustrated. I've had better things to do. There was a time when I thought my writing would be my legacy. Not greatness, for in spite of the photographer's description on our wedding day, neither of us were ever grandiose, but perhaps distinguished minor poet. To write and publish just enough so that when Megan's Radcliffe classmates ask, "What does your father do?" she can reply, "He is a poet." But what does he do for a living? But that is not the rub. Too easy an excuse that, because just as the writing has taken a back seat, so has the job. Oh, I take pride, as much in punctuality as work, and go home punctually at 4:30 and leave the work. What is in the first place then? You, certainly, our children, certainly, and God. Kathleen tonight, who at 4, by her own testimony, loves God better than anybody, lying in that crib that we have never quite got far enough ahead to replace with the bed. After I turned off her light, and just before I was out her door, called me back to ask who I liked better, God or her. Honestly, I told her that I liked her better because I knew her better. If I knew God better, I might like him better. But it's not a competition. The elements are of a piece. You and our children and God. It flows. I have listened to my own advice when Dennis calls to say, something's happening in my head, and I reply, your feelings cannot hurt you. It is what you do that matters, and you're doing all the right things. You're going to a meeting every night. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and time is on our side. And when I hang up, I say to myself, my God, I'm teaching him how to live, and what is more, I'm qualified. I'm not going to a meeting every night. That too has taken a back seat. Yet I am certain that I have that right after 17 years, that I am doing all the right things for me. If I don't go to a meeting tonight, why, there will be another night when I do, and there is no time limit on this thing. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. On that hike in the Blue Hills last Saturday, when we got off the path and separated with Annie on my back, there were times when I could not put one foot in front of the other, but had to go back and turn, headed off by briars, uncertain sometimes whether I was only getting myself in deeper. But because we left the path, we found that little grove so full of lady slippers that so delighted you. I had to get down on my knees, my face almost to the ground so that Annie could touch one. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. There is no room in this for poetry or art of any kind. Poetry is too precious, and art is luxury. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, after talking to all those dying people, really walking in the valley of the shadow, comes back to tell us there are only 2 things in life that matter at all, love and service. She does not mention art. Is anyone's lot made better by art? Is mine? Music, perhaps. There is music playing now, and I am better for it, more at peace. Perhaps if I could make music, but poetry. There was one poem, a poem by Dave Smith in The New Yorker, that made me feel good about writing or having written poetry. And is that all we can hope for? To once in a while write something that makes other poets feel better? Well, once I wrote something that I think made people who were not poets feel better about their lives. That was worthwhile. That served. The one that was excerpted, I can't say that word, in a journal of the arts with a long section from the middle stuck on at the end. I remember the anniversary poem I wrote for you 2 years ago and your reaction that it was too good, too obviously for publication, not for you. Another problem with art, there is no correlation between quality and service. Why? Why has it taken me so long to learn what all my prior generations knew? My legacy will be our children. After supper most nights, I give Annie and Kathleen their baths, then watch them dance, do exercises with them, read them a story, lead them in a prayer, put them laughing to bed. If I were a real poet, I would instead seclude myself somewhere and in the time produce maybe 2 good lines. Perhaps this choice is why real poets write so often about pain. If when I am dead they come to you and ask, what did he leave behind? Who showed such promise in his youth? Then you must say, here are 3 daughters, and whatever, neither perfect nor invulnerable, but secure in the love of God the Father and the knowledge that we are only really hurt by the things we do ourselves, and even these things we can learn from. So this is where we are, putting one foot in front of the other. You'll get a sort of poem once a year. What matters is not how we feel, but what we do, and this, like playing third base, is one of the things I do. And neither one is more important. Things flow. My life is of a piece. There is no time limit on this. The only things that count are love and service. So let us love and serve each other well. And if I'm wrong, God's plan will probably allow for the defection of one very minor poet.
I was thinking, people that know me know that I think that competition has no place in art, but I mean, one of the things I was thinking during that was, even before Jack came out as a poet, he was better than we were, you know? So, yeah, he's really one of the best. So those of you who haven't seen him, definitely look on YouTube, and those of you who really want to think about this from a performance standpoint, I mean, he is just one of those people that you learn so much from, just from watching the way he did it. I wouldn't throw around that word master, because there's a lot of people that are pretty good. This is a guy who, yeah, just check him out and see what you think.
He was supposed to be a poet.
Yeah, and the website is standuppoet with 1 P, right?
Yes.
.net. That's where you can find out some more info on Jack.
Yeah.
And you know, someone else who we miss very much is another member of the Ghost Town family is Dries Martin, and I'm mentioning her because, you know, there isn't any reason not to. We miss her, we think about her a lot, and we are really grateful for the time that we did have with her here. She would entertain us with riddles and stories, and just wanted to say that again and remind you that remind Jim that we you know, we haven't forgotten her. We certainly haven't. So if you are, you know, if you're able, it's your turn. Would you like to come up and read something to us? All right. Jim Martin, who's been with us since the very first time that we did this. So yeah, we really want to keep Dries in our hearts. She stays there. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I wish I had Dries' voice. If you didn't know her, she had. She spoke English, the Queen's English. She was born in Italy, learned English as a second language, and spoke it as a first language. And she had a nice way of reading what she wrote. I spent a lot of years in my life getting paid for what I really love to do, which is nice. And there was one part of that work where there was a stream bank and a slope, and I walked up that slope often, and it became part of my life, and eventually became Dries. And so this is a poem about it. It's not really long, It comes in 4 short parts. It may have a title someday. 1, fall. The creek turns chilly, Tippy's fur grows to a thick mat. The moon enchants, my breath rises in wisps. Thoughts turn to you, here on this bank, so long ago. The same chill air that disclosed your breathing and drew our bodies close carries your scent back to me now, and you're here. We touch, talk quietly, then you dissolve. 2. Sometimes it's hard to speak. 2. My breath, wisps of cloud glide past the treetops. Ephemeral cloudlets point the way up the trail, chilly, saturated with dew. My industrious shoes crunch greetings. I know the seasons of this path as I know the years of my life. Dormancy, promise, commitment, love, birth, joy, harvest, long evenings, life, and expectancy. The hint of winter and what lies beyond. I know this welcoming company, the seasons, the forest and I, together living out our hopes and aspirations. 3, the forests, the seasons and I, you. My forest, my welcoming company, my path in you, through you, with you. Your seasons, the years of our life. My thoughts turn to you, we touch, talk quietly, hopes and aspirations, the hint of winter and what lies beyond. Wisps, the clouds so long ago. 4, the clouds so long ago. Like the wisps of my breath, glide past the treetops, cloudless, ephemeral, point the way. Chilly, saturated with dew, my industrious shoes crunch greetings. I know the seasons of this path. As the years of my life know a welcoming, living company, home of our lives and their seasons. The path lives out its own hopes and aspirations as I live mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. That was really beautiful. And I've mentioned this before, but Jim is a member over at Gallery 360, and I just really think that the photography that he does is very beautiful. So head over there. It's on 9th Street, and check out some of his visual art at some point. Next, we're going to hear from Lori Loringer. Lori?
I'm short and I'm loud. So this was I believe it was the In Other Words reading. Picked up these little.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, there was boom. And so on one side they say things like exonerate and albino bulls, but on the other side they say premium and admit one. So I randomly titled this Premium Admit One. Dumbstruck by the quiet torture of the disrespect we give ourselves and one another, we treat our planet like a chamber pot, but there's no way to empty it. The earth trouble piles up, overflows, uncontained. Albino bulls, we think we're so special. Unlike our fellows of earthy red and brown, we spread our dung about as if it's not just shit, the same color as the other bulls. Who will be left to condemn or exonerate us in Earth's final hours? Just how much bullshit can one planet take and still forgive? All right, this is called At the Corner of Two Lives and One Moment. And this, I wouldn't recommend this, do not try this at home, but this is an experience I had while I was driving around in my car, and I literally started scribbling on the page while I wasn't looking. So then I later turned that into a...
Pull over.
Yeah. I wasn't looking, I swear.
Stay out of my way.
At the corner of two lives in one moment. I see her in the car, turning the corner, wearing dark glasses, but I can see her angular face. She seems reasonable. She looks like me. I'm painting my own caricature. She's turning the corner. We've never met, but when I see her face, I know her. I know that impassive visage of calm reason belies the perpetual turmoil of this existence. I know she's turning a corner. I'm turning a corner. There's a sharp corner coming up, as angular as the bones beneath the flesh of our faces, sharp as the pain we carry to the point of change. I don't know if she sees me. In the car from behind the sunglasses there is no sun for. But I can see her anguish. She seems to be crying. I lay down my fear. I'm heading for change. She's heading for change. My heart invites her to lay down her sadness, to lay down her fear beside mine. I'm painting her portrait. Together, we're turning a corner from turmoil to existence, from past reality to all possible futures. In this moment, going separate ways, we're turning a corner together.
So one of the things that I've suggested to poets before is to ask other poets to read your work for you so that you can hear what it sounds like when somebody else does it. And so Dennis took me at my word, and he asked me to read this piece of his, and so I will read it, and also it will also serve as our introduction to a poem, something else that Dennis wants to share with us tonight. So this is Dennis's work, and it's called November, and it's an honor, sir. November. Sunday morning, the tall, clumpy maples outside the bedroom window